Thanks, Ruth. As August gets underway in earnest, the last musical echoes and cultural reverberations of the Newport Jazz Festival are just fading from memory. This iconic jam session is one of the most glittering threads woven into the fabric of our seaside community. It is also one of the world-renowned features of the ocean state that we, as locals, usually ignore because we know how much we'd have to immerse ourselves in its music and forego our regular routines if we didn't. Politicians try to sell us on the quality of life here in Rhode Island all the time. Some even try to use the image of ocean beaches and fresh seafood to divert attention from their own unwillingness to tackle the real problems facing their constituents. Yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. Speaker. Nice job at the DNC roll call, but really? Some of us have never taken the time to learn the lexicon of jazz. When I was in high school, the soundtrack of my life was rock and roll, because that was all they played on AM radio, and that's all we had to listen to in our cars. When I got to college, I was aware that there was a much wider musical world out there, so I started to do some research. As the lyrical and innovative variations of jazz started to infect me, I began to catalog artists and their specialties, if only in my own mind. The more I searched the breadth and depth of the music, the more often I came across the Newport Jazz Festival. In 1954, what was then called the First Annual American Jazz Festival was held in Newport. Billie Holiday and Dizzy Gillespie were headliners. The major accomplishment of the event may have been to legitimize jazz as an art form worthy of both study and popular attention. Over the years, the festival has become part of the background count of the steady stream of Rhode Island summers we locals have sailed through. I actually attended one concert of the Newport Jazz Festival in the late 1960s. I loved it, but somehow I just never got back. How many of you have similar stories? This year, Chick Corea played piano in a trio with Christian McBride on bass and Brian Blades on drums. It was a rhythm section, as the entire ensemble, and each instrument was tasked with greater responsibility to drive the improvisational music. This year also saw Nora Jones bring her bluesy vocals to Fort Adams in front of a larger band. It was a performance with production values reminiscent of the classic 1958 performances of Anita O'Day. You should still go get that record. It's true, I missed both those gigs. But I didn't miss the feeling of importance that precedes a Newport Jazz Festival, and I didn't miss the feeling of gravitational influence that attends the festival while it's in progress. I actually listened to quite a bit of the music, if only on YouTube. So, now that August is underway, I'll do what I always do, and what you should do too. I'll promise myself to take it in person next year. Ruth?